Welcome, everybody. We're going to be going through Unit 1. This is still our first night of class, and we're starting to dig into the actual material for the course at this point. What you'll notice here in this Unit 1 folder, and I'm going to just zoom in on my screen just ever so slightly here, is what I would call a very typical layout for my course shells and really for any one of the units that's in this course. My typical pattern is that I list the topics for the unit at the top, including what chapter we're reading and any other auxiliary information. You'll notice that the readings for this first week are basically Chapter 1 and Appendix A, which tells you how to basically run Java code on your computer and get everything installed. This is a little bit dated, but the general instruction is still on target. I will talk about what stuff is required, and we're going to walk through that in class and where to get it and how to do it and make sure it's working. And we'll test it all also. And then at the very top here, I do have the PowerPoints. When I do my lecture videos, I do sometimes pull out the PowerPoints and lecture on them. I think more often I tend to lecture off the book directly than I do the PowerPoints. But if you're curious about the lecture materials, normally you're going to find them kind of listed here. So whenever I do like, Chapter 1 lecture demo, for example, and I might do a little bit of that here tonight, but I'm not sure we'll quite get there. But my expectation is that you will be basically reading the chapter to get that material and watching the lecture videos to get the concepts. Some of it will be exactly like what we're doing here, but some of it might be a little bit different. And you'll notice here, if you're new to my courses, none of you are, but if you were new, what I try to tell people is the new videos will appear here. I always put them at the top. I have a hard time deleting the old ones because sometimes they're still pertinent or sometimes they're recorded better than what I just did. And, why, get rid of something that's perfectly fine, is kind of the thing. The ones that are way down here, these are like, several years old at this point. But I do still find value in them, which is why they're still listed here. And sometimes it's a faster way to get to the exercises with some of the older videos, just by the way. All right. If you keep scrolling down here, one of the first things that we're going to do here is we're going to install software. Because this is a really important piece. So let's talk first about the type of software that we need and how Java actually operates. And I know the book has information on this too, but I'm going to kind of give you my quick little explanation of how Java coding works on a computer system. First, Java has this strategy that they developed when they came up with Java that made them unique amongst programming languages, in that they would take their code, whatever code you would create, and instead of running it directly on the operating system, would run that code inside a virtual machine, which is kind of like a mini computer system piece of software loaded on your computer that executes software code. Since Java developed that, most other major programming languages do exactly the same thing. They basically isolate the code execution of the code that you write from the rest of the operating system to basically keep your computer from crashing. So if you can imagine, you could write a piece of code that would make your entire computer system misbehave, and then you have to restart it, right? The virtual machine helps to prevent that. Now, the JVM, as they call it in the industry, the Java Virtual Machine, can also be referred to as the JRE. So you see those two terms are very synonymous. JRE stands for Java Runtime Environment, which is basically the virtual machine or the JVM. So JRE, JVM, kind of synonymous. The other piece that we're going to have to install is what we call the JDK. Most other languages will call it an SDK for Software Development Kit. But basically what the JDK is it's a collection of libraries that allows your code to be created. Um, some stuff you write from scratch, and some stuff you just utilize in the programming language. Um, the JDK is the tool that you need to install on your system to be able to write Java code. So the JDK allows you to write code. The JRE allows you to run the code and isolates it from the operating system. And then finally, you need a way to actually write the code itself. And for that, at least my preference in this course and where we're going to start is with a product called Eclipse, but I will mention a bunch of other products as well. If you're already a Java coder, or you've done some Java in the past and you used a different tool, I do get people that are in that situation, feel free to keep using that tool. Some of the real notable ones include NetBeans, IntelliJ. A lot of people now are using Visual Studio Code to do Java. I've also seen people using regular Visual Studio to do Java. And then you have some of the old school diehards that use tools like JGrasp or BlueJ or heck, a plain text editor or like Notepad++, for example, something like that, where you write the code and then you compile it from the command line. The book does talk about how to do that. And in the past, I used to teach it. And if you want to learn that technique, all you have to do is read the book and try the example. I'm going to tell you what, it's kind of a pain, which is why I avoid it, because a professional programmer would only do that if they couldn't do it the other way. And in that case, when you're a professional, you can probably figure it out pretty quickly. But that is the old way we used to do it. We used to write the code with a plain text editor, go to the command line, compile it, and then go to the command line and run it. Then hopefully it worked, right? We're going to use Eclipse, which is what we call an IDE, which stands for Integrated Development Environment, meaning the coding engine, the ability to execute the code and to troubleshoot the code is all inside of one software product. And frankly, Eclipse is the number one Java coding tool. That's what most professional Java developers use. And I'm going to be using a special version of it that is going to prepare you for Java level 2, because you guys are all going to take that course, right? You're going to succeed at this course and then take Java 2 either next semester or next fall or whenever it's offered. All right. So let me direct you now to this software download link, and you can see what I've done to make it easier. And I did this a number of years ago because I would tell people, hey, go to the Java website, download this, and then they would move the page or change the download technique, and it would always mess me up. So what I did to kind of save us all that hassle is I took all the files that we need and I loaded them up on this web page, and thankfully it loaded. But if you go to this link here, apollo.gtc.edu, and in fact, why don't I just do this? I'll just drop it in the chat for everybody. You can click it right on the Blackboard page too. But there it is in the chat. That might be faster. And we're going to grab 3 files, and I show that here. I think I do a highlight, like which files you want, the ones marked in red, but don't go top to bottom in the install. There's a process for installing, and it works better if you follow the process. The first one we want to install is actually the bottommost one, which is the JRE. Now, there's a very good chance you may already on your computer system have a Java runtime environment installed. And I'm going to show you how you can find out, right? So if you bring up your file manager and go to your C drive, go to Program Files, find the Java folder if you have one. You probably have the JRE already. And then you'll see listed here my JRE and my JDK. And you'll notice they have these like cryptic little numbers here. The first number is basically irrelevant, but the second number is the one that counts. I have version 1.8, which is the enterprise, the latest enterprise edition version of each of these. If you have a different one here, it's probably because you installed a game or a piece of software or something you downloaded from the internet that required Java to run, and it might be a different version number. What I'm going to tell you is that you don't have to remove that or anything. You can leave that in place. You can add the enterprise stuff right in the same place. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's go back here to the download page now. And what you'll want to do is first click to download the JRE 8U, this one, the one I'm pointing to. So the JRE 8U281. And that is a slightly older version, but it will upgrade itself automatically once installed. Now, what I usually like to do in this scenario is, I'm like recording my screen right now, but here's my problem. I've already done this, right? So this, I already have this in place. So what I'm looking for, would somebody out there be willing to share their screen and I will coach you through it? And then we'll record that screen to share with the world. Any volunteers? Do I have to do a voluntold? Okay, no volunteers. You guys are not jumping on it. All right. Well, I'm going to give you a demonstration. So there's me downloading it, right? And you can see I've already done this before, so I've got multiple versions here. But once you have it downloaded, okay, they're marking this as an insecure file. I assure you it is secure. So I'm downloading the file. You can see my little download indicators going there. In fact, I'll just click on it so you can watch it. Some of these components do take a little while to download and install because of the types of files that are inside of them. So you can see this is taking about a minute. Now, once you have this downloaded, you will simply give it a double click to do the install and then follow the screen prompts. And it's those screen prompts in particular. I'm going to kind of be brave and kind of let it install, even though I probably shouldn't. I'm just letting you guys know that. So I might mess myself up a little bit, but I know how to fix it ultimately. But I do want you to have a little bit of a demo there. I'm also guessing that I probably already have one of these in my downloads folder that I never deleted. I probably could have just ran that, but hey, whatever. It is what it is. All right, just about done here. A few seconds left. All right. All right, so now that we have the JRE, this is the component, once again, that allows you to run Java programs on your computer. I'm going to go ahead and launch it. There it is. Now I just got a user account control screen saying, do you want to allow this to make changes to your device? And I am saying yes. I don't think that records into the video for whatever reason. The next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to hit the install button. Notice how it also listed remove. So it's recognizing that I have it already. I'm going to go ahead and just reinstall it. It's not going to harm anything. This is what it looks like during the install process. Depending on the speed of your computer, how much RAM and what kind of hard drive you have, this can be super, super fast, or it can take a little while. So if it's taking a while, please be patient. It will finish eventually. All right, and you see it did succeed. So that was step one. That's pretty easy, right? And like I said, it's possible you guys might already have a JRE already on your system. The next one we want is this one, the JDK. This is the software development kit. Go ahead and do a download on that. And it looks like I already have that too. Once again, I'm being prompted here. It thinks it's insecure. I assure you it's not. It comes directly from the makers of Java, which is Oracle, by the way. So we'll let that do its download. And that's going to take a moment here. As we're watching, it's kind of like watching paint dry, right? It's kind of boring to watch a download that's going really slow. I'm going to do a little bit of discussion about Java. And the one thing that I think is kind of interesting is Java's history. Java was originally developed by a company called Sun Microsystems. Sun Microsystems was a computer hardware and software manufacturer usually for what we call the enterprise, which is like really big companies. They made like big servers and mainframes, but they also made desktops and monitors and stuff like that. Sun at one point, I think in the early 90s, got bought out by a company called Oracle, which whose big line of business, by the way, is making databases. Oracle owns the Java programming language, but it was originally developed by Sun Microsystems. What's kind of fascinating about Oracle as a company, they have some other really notable products. Aside from their big flagship database, they also create the MySQL database. So if you guys have had your database class or are taking it now, MySQL is kind of the prevalent database for use on the web. And as web developers, it's one that we get to know pretty well. And that's also made by Oracle. It's kind of the free version of their big flagship database. And so they're responsible for, world's biggest programming language and arguably maybe the most important database products as well. A lot of people have not heard of that company, but they are, I assure you, they're huge. They're absolutely humongous IT company. Java, I think, I'm not sure exactly what year it was released, but it was early 90s, I believe. It was built on top of the original C programming language and C++. So it uses many of the same conventions of those languages. Those languages are, I usually refer to them as curly bracket, semicolon languages. So in other words, like if you guys were in the Python class last semester or maybe semesters prior, in Python, when we write a line of code, we write the line of code, and when we're done, and we go to the next line and write the next line of code, like we're writing a sentence. With Java, it doesn't work that way. Your code has to be inside of code blocks, either class structures, functions, whatever, which are inside of curly brackets. And then every statement that you make is terminated with a semicolon. And that's what we typically call a C-style language. It borrows many of the conventions of C-style languages, but really ramped up the object-oriented pieces significantly. And then the fact that it was able to run on just about any platform. And the motto, once again, is build once, run anywhere, really made Java grow very quickly. All right, I'm going to go ahead and open this up now. Let's get that up on the screen. You're probably getting another user account control message. I'm waiting for it to launch here. Probably being virus scanned right now. There's my user account control screen. Do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device? Yes, if you want to be in this class. All right. And you see the message that I'm getting. So this one says the version of the JDK is already installed. Please uninstall the JDK and run this installer again to reinstall. So you guys are going to kind of be on your own since I don't have any volunteers here on this one. But generally speaking, it is kind of a next, I agree, next, finish kind of installation. It's pretty quick and simple. There's no real challenging choices to make in the process. The only thing that you'll be careful of is when you get to the last screen, I think they try to encourage you to, because this is the software development part, they try to encourage you to download like tutorials and sample files. You do not need to do that. You can skip that piece. All right, while you guys are doing that process, that install doesn't go quite as fast as the JRE, but almost. It's not very time consuming. Before I download and install Eclipse here, I'm first going to talk about Eclipse as a product. So I'm just Googling it, and you see I do the search here, and you can go to the Eclipse website if you choose. So you can go to eclipse.org. This is their main website. And they've kind of changed it. It used to be you go right to the coding tools on the main page, but now we're going to click on the download link up here at the top. And I want you to be careful here. I'm not asking you to download this from here. I just want to show you what Eclipse is and what options are available. Generally speaking, because we're all working on modern computer systems, we would download the 64-bit version. Usually for Windows, it's marked as x86, which implies the processor style, and 64-bit. Um, but there are choices. And what I want to do here is, I don't know if this directly goes to a download. Yeah, it actually does. Okay, so I don't want that one. What I want to show you is probably the packages. So I'm clicking on the packages link here, and then that shows you all the different versions that are available. And there's a whole bunch, right? It's not to complicate things. I'm just kind of putting it on your radar. Um, the one that we really are going to be using here is not the first one, which is what a lot of intro level Java is written on. We're going to go right to the second level one, which is for enterprise Java. And hey, we're web developers. Remember that most of you are web in the web program. So that one's for enterprise Java and web developers. And what this provides that's different is it gives you database connection tools. So you can connect the database to read and write information, and it gives you all the web frameworks so that you can create Java code that powers websites, right? And all the tools that go with. So the one that we are going to be installing is basically this product with add-ons. But here's what I'm doing is I'm giving you an explanation of why I have the download that I have for you. Downloading this version and then separately downloading all the add-ons, installing them and configuring them. Real frankly, we could be here for a few hours to get everybody to work. Um, and frankly, even with that, sometimes it doesn't. We run into problems. And so what I've done is I found this package provider, basically. Hard to explain what that really is, but somebody that would take that version of Eclipse, bundle it with a bunch of other software, zip it all up, and then hand it to people. Go, here, it's all set to go. So you don't have to do the work. And for me, teaching an intro level course, it really makes it a whole lot easier for everybody to do this. So the one that you want to download from the software page is the one that says Eclipse, and you'll notice it's a zip file. Okay, so I do already have this downloaded, but if you want, just click that link and it will download. And then I'm sure that if I go to my download folder, and it's probably better just to go right to the folder, honestly. Somewhere in here, there's probably a few different versions of it that are zips. Okay, so here's the zip right there. And now I'm doing this as a demonstration. Once you get that downloaded, and it will take a little while to download. I think it's a fairly slow download for whatever reason, probably because of all the little micro files inside of it. And you have that zip file in your downloads folder. Once you have it, go ahead. I'm going to actually delete this folder here because it's going to interfere a little bit. So I'm getting rid of that. And then I'm just double clicking the zip. And if you're in Windows, you just want to hit extract all, right, to unzip it. That's how you do it in Windows. And sure, just go with the defaults, whatever it creates, click next, and then it will start the process. Well, this isn't a really big file, real frankly. It's only like, I don't know, 300-400 meg, but inside of that zip file are probably tens of thousands of little files, some of which are also zip files, and it takes a while to process them. So you'll see here, it says about 6 minutes just to unzip this file. Right. Interestingly, if you're a techno geek, if this was like a same sized like video file, it would unzip in like a second because it's one file to process. The reason this takes so long is because of all the little tiny files. Each file header is handled separately, and then processed. So I know it's a little bit of a, once again, we're watching paint dry. Not very exciting, but there it is, folks. Now I'm doing this because I know that you guys will probably be doing the same process and that's going on in the background for you. But with any luck, we will be coding really soon. Just waiting for it to finish. Does it say how many total files there are? 3,429 items need to be unzipped. All right, so as we're waiting for this to unzip, one funny little story I always tell a lot of my students is, you know, my son learned how to do Java code when he was really, really young because he was playing Minecraft. And then he figured out that he could hack the jar files, which are Java archive files, because that's how Minecraft is created with Java originally. Um, and then I don't know what capability it gave him, like extra zombies or whatever, whatever Minecraft thing is there is. And he was, I think, like 6 or 7 years old when he figured out how to do it. He just watched a video on YouTube, somebody describing how to, download Java and unzip the jar and type some code, and wow, he got it to work. All right. So now that you're all done, you'll notice that you'll have a folder inside here called Eclipse. That folder, if you open it, contains the program. What I want you to do is go back up one level, grab that folder and put it somewhere else. Don't cut it or delete it, copy it, because then you can keep this version here. So if you screw up the version that you have, you can just come back here and copy it instead of downloading it all over again, right? What a pain. All right. So what I normally do is I go to my documents folder and I usually create a software folder inside there. Now, I also, not on this machine, but on most of my other machines, I usually have a second hard drive. I usually put it there, but that's, a whole separate story. So I create a software folder and then I copy that folder in there directly. Just paste it right in. Now, I want you to listen to this really carefully, and especially those watching the video in the aftermath of it all. The version of Eclipse that I'm installing here is really what we call a portable piece of software. It doesn't actually install like a regular, like we did the JRE and the JDK. We had an installer. We had screens and buttons we had to click on, and it did all this stuff in the background and did the work for us. Here, all we did is unzip. And all I have to do to run this software, by the way, is go to this folder, find the Eclipse exe file, and double click it. Now, this is an older version of Eclipse, but it's pretty irrelevant, frankly, because it's the libraries underneath, the JDK and the JRE, that really do most of the work. Maybe the newer ones have maybe a little bit better IntelliSense or something like that, but this one's got pretty good IntelliSense ultimately. Now, when you do launch it, and you guys might not be at this point yet, and that's okay, you'll be asked to create a workspace. Now, you can see here that I've got my name. I know this is probably really small on your screen, but I put it on my Google Drive, and then I have a folder for this class, and then a folder for a semester. So if I click on the browse thing, you can see kind of what I'm talking about. So I put it on my Google Drive, which is attached as my G Drive. I create a folder for Java Programming 2, and then one for each semester that I'm teaching it, right? You could probably just create a folder called Java 2 and just put all your stuff there. So you could just say, if you're on the screen, you could go to like my documents, for example, and then here, create a new folder and just call it, Java 2. I'm trying to hit the A key, not the S key. Maybe something like that. And then that will become what we call your workspace, right? Now, I'm not going to actually click OK to get this because I don't want to change my workspace. I have a different way that I operate, but I do want to create a new workspace for this semester. So I'm going to go to the spot where I normally store stuff, and then I'm going to go here to the top folder, make a new folder, and you can see what I do is I put the year in, and then I put the semester, spring. So I say 2024 spring. It's inside my Java 2 folder. That's where I would put it. You put it where it's right for you, and you name it what's right for you. If you don't want to name it anything and you just want to use the default workspace that comes up, that's fine too. But you need to know where that is. So when you're looking for your files later, you're not going, where's my Java stuff? Right? So if you create your own folder, at least you should know where it is. So now that I have that folder highlighted, I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and you see how it populates up here, right? Yours will probably say something like C, users, Joe, documents, Java 2, something like that might be yours. Once you have that selected, go ahead and click OK, and then the product will finish launching. How fast it takes to launch really depends on your system, how much RAM, how much CPU you have. You do get this little message that pops up on the screen. I'm going to uncheck the box and say cancel. I don't want to do that. I've done it before, so I don't need to do it. You can say okay if you want. Not a big deal. They just kind of track how you use the product a little bit. I am also going to make the product full screen, and then I'm going to close the welcome window. Once you close the welcome window, now you go into what is the default view for the product. This is what the normal operating mode looks like. Generally, it lays like this, and I'm going to kind of like do a really quick overview of this, and then we'll revisit this once we actually start to write code. But the window is broken down into areas. Generally speaking, you will be writing code in the center window in the middle, the big one. I usually make it even bigger. I usually like do this, and I usually take this sidebar and move it over. And then down here at the bottom is where we'll see our errors, our console output, any of that stuff will appear down in this bottom panel. The left panel is what we call the Package Explorer, or what kind of looks like it's a file system, but it's not really. But it shows you your projects and the hierarchy of all the files inside of it and all the libraries that are attached. The far right panel will show, I guess, I'm not sure the right word. They call it an outline, but I think of it as kind of like a project object listing. So like everything that you put into your program will be broken down into kind of like an outline of a hierarchy. So if I create a program and that program has a module, and the module has a button, and the button has some code, all of that breaks down in a hierarchy so you can directly tunnel into what you need. I tend not to use this tool a lot, only to make sure that my structure is okay. So I usually make that pretty small too. Most of my work happens here, and down at the bottom. All right, so this is the Eclipse IDE. All right, so for right now, I'm going to move this out of the way, and I'm going to take us back to the core shell. What I'm hoping is that you guys were all successful. And I'm going to just take a moment here. I'm just going to pause the recording for a second. So I do want to talk about a couple more options that are available, by the way. If you're not a fan of Eclipse, you get people that just don't like the way it looks or the way it feels or whatever. And just so you guys are aware, Eclipse looks very much like a Linux product. NetBeans does too, real frankly. There are some other options, and I've listed some of them down here that do work and usually work pretty consistently well. NetBeans is actually the product that comes from Oracle that's considered, and actually I'm going to check what I just said there. It now comes from the Apache Foundation, so they've taken over the build of it. But it's a free product that typically is considered the included IDE for Java. And there's lots of people that like NetBeans better than Eclipse, and so that's got its whole fan base as well. If you're looking for something really, really basic, the JGrasp IDE is one that was actually built for students. It does lack some things, though. One thing that it lacks is a slick interface. It looks primitive, as a polite way to say it. It also does not have IntelliSense. So usually, like if an instructor is giving you JGrasp as an IDE, what they're banking on is that you're going to learn how to do the coding manually and figure out your own problems. Here's the reality with that, though. That's not how pros work. Pros use IntelliSense. They use you know, all the underlining features and stuff that high level IDEs offer. So generally speaking, JGrasp can do everything the others can do, but it doesn't have IntelliSense and really slick looking tools. I would use it only in a pinch. I'm just putting it out there. The one that a lot of students also work with, you know, and for whatever reason, Visual Studio Code made by Microsoft, which is really their lightweight coding product. But it's what we call an extensible product, meaning that they built it to do a couple of different things. And because it's an open source project, all these people have written like extensions and stuff for it. And I was experimenting with this a little bit earlier on my other machine. And I'm just going to launch Visual Studio Code here just to show you. So if you have Visual Studio Code, right, the lightweight, or VSC as some people call it, I'm going to just go ahead and create a new file. And I'm going to name it like a Java file. So I'm going to call it, for example, test.java, right? The moment I create the file, at least I thought I created the file. Did I not hit OK? Apparently I didn't hit OK. Or I didn't do it correctly. All right. Let's just call it test.java. And okay, so I'm like failing at like 100% here on this. This is really not good. All right, let me try that one more time. Is there something here that I'm missing? Maybe I need to upgrade my Visual Studio Code. All right, I'm going to try this one more time. Shouldn't really be this hard, frankly. And normally see, it's not even creating the file, which is perplexing me. And maybe where I need to begin here is by updating the product. It's been a while. Anyhow, all right, let me do this. You know, this worked really great on my other machine. Maybe I'll save this demonstration for the last time. But basically, if you have Visual Studio Code, maybe somebody can verify it for me. I don't want to go through the upgrade process right now. But you can create a file, put a Java extension on it, and save it. And then Visual Studio kicks in automatically and says, "Hey, we see you're making a Java file. Do you want to recommend we recommend you install the default Java tools from Microsoft." And you just say yes, and it installs them. And then, I don't know, 5 minutes later, you're ready to code, right? And so Visual Studio Code can be used. And I'm just wondering here, I'm just wondering if maybe I'm getting a message here to do it. I think it's because it's an old version. I have not updated this in a while, but that's probably the case. But Microsoft does make some extensions that you can install that allow you to do all your coding inside of Visual Studio Code. So if you like that product, that's an option. If you're also a Visual Studio user, meaning the full-blown product, not the lightweight product, but the full-blown product, that also supports Java, but you do need to add the libraries for it as well. Those aren't usually installed by default, but it's a few mouse clicks to get them installed. The one that I will finally point you to is this other one, which may actually be the only other product I would like strongly recommend aside from NetBeans and Eclipse. The only reason I don't push it on students is it's not free, right? So this is a paid product from JetBrains. So if you click this link to go to JetBrains, okay, I guess I got to fix that link too. JetBrains makes a bunch of different coding products. So in fact, if you click on this developer tools menu, you'll notice, look at all these coding engines that they make. These are all IDEs. They have ones that are highly specialized. So for example, like if you want to do Python, if you want to do PHP, if you want to write JavaScript and HTML, if you want to write Ruby on Rails, if you want to write, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, their big product, the one that's probably equivalent to Visual Studio, is called IntelliJ IDEA, right? That's kind of the killer product that for Java. Here's the catch with this, though. If you go in like a regular consumer and try to download it. I think you get like a 30-day trial, and then it expires, and then they ask for a whole bunch of money. I don't know what the price tag is on it, but it's not cheap. You know, you're better off saving that money for like a car payment or a house payment. You know, it's like that kind of money. However, if you go to the education area, and right here where it says free licenses for students and teachers, and you do this first, don't install it first, do this first. Sign up for a free account, right? And just go through the process. And generally speaking, what happens when you have a gateway email account, so you have like your, student at mail.gtc.edu, and you sign up with that, it automatically unlocks it. And what they do is you set up an account, they send you some like codes and links and stuff, and then you come back to the website and you can download any of their products for free, but you have to renew your license, I think, once a year or something like that, or every 6 months or something like that. But it is a really, really cool product. It might be the most sophisticated and awesome of all of them, to be real frank. The only thing that keeps us from, recommending it in the program is the cost factor, because once you walk away from school and you don't have a gateway email account, well, then you got to pay for it. The one advantage of the Microsoft products is that they are free. Eclipse is free. NetBeans is free. In fact, all the other products I talked about are free. Microsoft Visual Studio used to not be free, but now that's free also. There are still paid versions but they're mostly for enterprise. But this is really, really a cool product. Highly recommended company. And, it is, a beautiful looking product. It operates really well. The people that I know that run it rave about it. I use it on occasion, but I still prefer Eclipse. That's just me because I've been just working with it for a long time. It has all the advanced stuff built in. Remember the database stuff and the web stuff I was talking about with Eclipse? That's already included in the product, but with the ultimate version of the product, right? Not in the lightweight version. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and get away from this IntelliJ thing, but I'm just putting it out there. Some people are ambitious and will go for it. The one that we're going to use is Eclipse. All right, so we're going to begin now, and we won't do any coding tonight, obviously, because we're just out of time. But where we're going to begin is I'm going to have you do this process, and I'm going to kind of point you back up here. This recommended learning pattern for the course. So this is how I would suggest that you proceed. First of all, buy the book, right? Get the software all installed. If you have problems with the software, let me know and I can help you. Not a problem, So with each week of instruction coming up, for next week, what you guys will need to do is read chapter 1 and appendix A. Where do you find that? Well, that's at the top of the unit folder. There's chapter 1. These are the topics you're reading about. Appendix A, and that's the topic you're reading about, right? This part that this is the stuff we just did. We installed that stuff. So that stuff's crossed off the list. So read the assigned chapters. If it helps you, download the PowerPoint. You can look at those too. Those can be very informative as well. Watch the lecture video for the assigned chapters. And all the videos are posted on YouTube and closed caption. And you can change the speed control and all that. So for this particular unit, if you want to watch an old one, you can probably, I think this one is probably the best one. This one just covers install. This one covers the lecture stuff and how to code, right? So this would be a good one to watch, I think. And then, all right, so let's go back to that. So watch the lecture video and then attempt the homework. Give it a try. See if you can do it, right? You might find that you'll do great. Or you might find like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm going to wait till class. Either way is okay. I'm just telling you that up front. Attempting the homework on your own and figuring it out is really valuable. And as I say here, it is okay to struggle. That's part of the process. Coding is difficult at first. Once you start to get it, though, it does become a lot easier, right? Then, after you attempt the homework, you either come to class or you watch the homework videos and see how I do the work. We'll assume what I do is correct, but not always. Sometimes I get students that come up with better solutions than I do, right? And that's absolutely fine. Then if you're still stuck and I couldn't help you during class, then we should do a one-on-one and I can help you out. The other thing that you can do, especially since you guys are new at coding, is don't forget that we have what we call Learning Success Center at Kenosha, Racine, and Elkhorn campuses, where they have tutors for IT. I think most of the IT tutors do Zooms these days, though. I don't think they do much in-person stuff. But you can always meet with Kevin or Aaron or Chris. I think those are the 3 tutors, and they can help you. They don't do your homework for you. They help you with the process of doing your homework. Or you can talk with me, right? Come early to class, whatever. I'm happy to help you out. So in terms of the homework for the class, you will see that we have what we call the You Do It exercises. The You Do It exercises, and I'm going to do those in class next week as I'm kind of sort of lecturing and coding, is basically the sample exercises. The author tells you exactly what to type and how to do it, and then you just follow along and try it on your own, and hopefully it works, right? And then we have what we call the regular exercises, which are at the end of the chapter. And instead of having all the code provided, you're given a scenario that'll say something, for chapter 1, it's going to be like something like, print your favorite song lyrics on the screen, something like that. And you just write the commands to do it, get it to work. And then when you turn in your work, you will turn in basically both the code files in a zip format and then screenshots of the code and the code running. I will talk about all of that next time, by the way. We'll go through that in detail. So when we come back next time, we will be working on Unit 1. You'll get lecture, and we'll hopefully get through all of these exercises or most of them. And whatever I don't have time to do in class, then you just go to the videos where I demonstrate all of it. Everything is in the videos, right? There is also extra credit opportunity right off the bat. You can do this at any point in time in the class. And my advice is, if you think it's really easy, go ahead and do it. Get the points. Why not, right? Bank them, get some extras. That way, if you bomb a test or something, or bomb an assignment, you got some points on the table that you can use to replace. And then from there, which will be the following week, then we'll move into chapter 2. Right. So next week will be chapter 1. Remember, read the book, watch the videos, try the exercises, and come to class, and then we'll code through all the work. All right. If there are no questions, folks, we are at 9:50. I am going to stop the video here, and I'll field any questions in the aftermath.